What's happening, man? I don't know how long I got. I'm expecting a miniature champion to return at some point, sleeping so that we can nap. So look, I watched Alien Covenant, and that shit pissed me the fuck off. It made me very mad. There's a couple of concepts that I want to get into, and if I'm unable to get into all of this within this go, I'm gonna for sure today round it out with another video. So there's a couple of different concepts that come about from this movie within my mind. It helped me to realize a few things. Alien Covenant was released in 2017. I won't say it was created, it was released in 2017. The concepts that are in this movie, not all by any means, but many of them can be applied to things that we are seeing right now, today. The most noticeable for me was the concept of what seems to be sentient nanotechnology swarms, or like, you know, even without the swarms, just Anthrobotics, nanotechnology that very much resembles what has been called no-see-ums or sandflies or midges. And I'm from the South and had never heard of any of that bullshit before very recently, like at most 2 years ago, but I think a little less than 2 years ago. And my thing is, I've had some beings that I've interacted with say, yeah, you know, I used to live in Florida, blah, blah, blah. I've seen those before. I've dealt with those before. I don't care. I also lived in Florida. I also lived in Florida, been in the South, moved around the South for a huge chunk of my life. Never once did I hear the word midge or biting midge or sandfly or any of that. Lived at beaches, been all around. So I say that to bring attention to the fact that I do believe very much that when you see redundancy in religious text, and when you see redundancy in historical text, within philosophical texts like Homer and Socrates and Plato, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true, but it definitely can lend to it potentially being more possible. The more redundancy you see, the more of a reason there is to say, hey, that kind of makes a bit of sense. And within watching some of these movies, I think, including myself, many of us have thought, okay, so this is pre-programming. What, a commercial? This is, social engineering. And while I do think that is a concept that is applied, I also think that if you take into context that we are very, very specific and special beings, very obviously, otherwise there wouldn't be talk of NPCs, whether you see that as non-player character or non-personal consciousness, which I'm kind of, leaning more toward that. It makes more sense and is less like derogatory. But when you take that into account, the fact that we have a spark from the first, that we have the breath of life from the Creator, it's also said by the Gnostics and many other cultures that those who do not cannot create. They can adapt things, they can utilize things, they can find ways to, in a roundabout way, repackage and present things in a different light. These movies, I very much believe, are meant to create things in order to use them against us. And in that sense, I mean, for instance, with the movie that I'm talking about, Alien Covenant, right? Moving past the fact that there are there is a majority that would say, "Oh, you're looking at reality from the tense of a movie. That's nuts." I don't want to take the time to defend that thought process. You either know what that is or you don't. But I do believe that the concept of selling one's soul, I think that there are some of us that are very confused, they're very conflicted, or they're very, very specifically like lost in what they view this place as. And when you start to hear others talk about abundance and success and all these things, you start to, potentially lose sight of self and what is important to keep of yourself. And some would call it, some would call it morality, but that's not really what I'm speaking of. It's something else. I don't know what else to call it, but the concept of selling your soul. One of the versions of that I see is very, very much like what you see in the music industry. And you can almost see the correlation between the two. Rap music was created by the CIA, admittedly. That's disclosed. It's not conjecture. That's not a theory. They've admitted it. And those that participated have admitted it. But have you noticed that it wasn't, dudes in suits making the music? They used us to do that. They used us to create those rhythms and melodies, and used our voices, used our likeness. They used our spark, right? So when you take that into account, and not just with rap, music in general, this was also done with the hippie movement. Same exact thing done with the hippie movement. When you take that into account, those with the spark are being utilized by those that do not have the spark to accomplish a goal. To accomplish a goal that comes back around and affects not only the beings that were doing these things, but their family, their friends, and others, right? So taking that example of this phenomena, now apply that to movies. You can call it magic, you can call it manifestation, you can call it whatever you want to. What I'm saying is, watching this specific movie and even other movies, you can start to see a pattern of creation coming from our spark, our art, our ability to manifest things. And it also has to do with like the observer theory when it comes to physics. Like I said, manifestation. There's almost like a level of mechanics and physics that goes along with this, but a good bit of it is metaphysical. And speaking specifically with this movie, I have, experienced myself with some of the themes, some of the narratives that are within this movie. But when I think back past a certain point, as I mentioned, these things did not exist from my experience. And this isn't from just like 1 or 2 years of living in the area that these are supposedly prominent. I spent most of my life in this region. Midges and sand flies and all that shit. Like I said, lived at the beach, all kinds of regions in the South. Never once did I experience or even hear of these things. And then, seemingly this movie comes around very specifically. For instance, like in the movie, and there's spoilers, whatever. The swarm is within these little cocoon-like things. Someone steps on one, they come out of the cocoon thing. You, as the viewer, can see them. The being that's in the scene cannot. Their intelligence in this movie is ridiculous, but I'm sure that's a plot vehicle to get things going. Because if they were smart, I guess they would have no movie. I have thoughts on that too, but I won't say those because they're kind of offensive, maybe. But you can see them, they cannot. There is one scene where they go into the ear. The swarm goes into the ear and infects the person from there. Another scene, they go into the eye. They go into the eye. And while there's a metaphysical kind of breakdown or whatever you want to call it of that as well, This is literal. This is literal. You can find beings that are talking about those very specific sensations and places of entry for something that does exist, something that I've shown pictures of from my microscope, things that are talked about outside of this channel, not even me, bringing them up. Now, I would very much welcome others to say, oh, well, I had a dealing with, midges in 2005 or something like that. That's not to say I'm going to believe you, but you can offer that. But to my experience, playing outside every single day for I'm older. I'm not, old, but I'm older. I'm in my 30s. We played outside. Midges did not exist. Mosquitoes exist. Flies exist. Dragonflies exist. So on and so on. But midges that you cannot see but can very much affect you many times more than what a mosquito does was not a thing. And so what I'm saying is there are themes within this movie that seem like they are not they're attempts, but they're successful attempts at manifestation. Not to say that they're the only, but they're definitely giving that type of energy to me. There's another scene in the movie where the android, the AI, the walking AI, David, kills the engineers, which seem to be the Anuna race. He kills them by dropping just loads and loads of this black goo substance from his ship in the sky. And that essentially made me think, what do you see when you go outside and look up? What is it that you see? Do you see ships dumping shit out of the sky? Because that's what I see. I don't even remember the last time I saw a naturally formed cloud, meaning a cloud that did not form after seeing a plane within the last 24 to 48 hours at most. Most time it doesn't take that long at all. But I don't remember the last time I saw that. And so when you watch this movie, there are parallels that can be drawn if you know what you're looking at. Even the David character and what was his name? Wendell? I don't remember there's a good bot and a bad bot in this one, unlike Prometheus. But even that is kind of drawing a delineation to what we're all talking about right now. The concepts of AI, the concepts of robotics with AI, or robotics without AI. This movie, that's why I'm titling this Warning or Threat. Because it's so backhanded and so specific. And it didn't take long. It's 2024 now. This came out in 2017. Look at the themes of this. And I can say that even in 2017, midges did not... I had no problem with midges in 2017 or any of that stuff. Nor did I see anything about anyone dealing with midges. And other aspects of this specific, kind of universe of stuff. And so it just seems very interesting to me because most of us view these entertainment offerings like series and movies, and we immediately and understandably think social engineering, predictive programming, and so forth. And I guess in a sense this is semantics, but they are seemingly using our spark to make these things happen. And it's not just on the level of music and warping our children's brains to becoming brainless, thugs that, so on, all that bullshit. They're doing other things, I'm not talking about it at all, but I will say, why do you think they need you so badly to watch the Super Bowl or to watch basketball or, you know what I mean? Like, do they care if you watch baseball? They do not. They don't give a fuck if you watch baseball. Why is that? You know what I mean? Fashion. It goes on so many different levels, but this one is specifically nefarious and specifically feels like declarations of war. These are attacks on you both mentally and physically. And I'm using this movie specifically because it's so overtly has manifested shit. And if you're confused about the swarm thing that I'm talking about, stuff like that, if this is the first time you've seen me talk about this in a video or the first video period, look up Anthrobots or Anthrobotics. Look up nanotechnology. Look up smart dust. This is not a theory. This is not a niche theme. This is very real. And I'm not just saying that because I can see corroborating stories. I'm saying that in the same vein, go look at the rest of my channel. Some of the thumbnails that you see on my videos, I didn't go search those. I took those pictures with my microscope. Those things that look like insect-like, creatures, they're not. And I took that with my own microscope. So, it brought about a good bit of emotion within me because it's like, not only is this something that I'm struggling to explain to the extent that I went and bought a fucking microscope, but also, it's very difficult to sift through the research. There isn't much available. And then there are many beings that are asserting many, many things. But if you take an extra step and think about it, they're not backing those claims up with much tangible evidence or experimentation. That's why I took it upon myself to fucking do that. Because I don't think that this is going to be an isolated thing for very long. You see beings that are talking about these types of experiences, and they're very, very, they're heart-wrenching. There are some that are really, really being affected by this to an aesthetic sense and a mental sense. Is driving them nuts. And I can see why. If you don't have a strong mind, this could really fuck you up. But I think that it's going to be affecting a lot more beings soon. Because, one of the applications of this, and this is why I talked about it from the perspective of Covenant, is they are dumping that shit on everyone right now. You can find videos of people talking about chemtrails and what's this shit on my car. They take a razor blade, they scrape the shit off their car, and it's magnetic. The shit they scrape off their car is magnetic. Same thing with snow. There's a video of someone who took a ball of snow, placed it in a jar, let it melt. They used a magnet and could see the shit attracted to the magnet. These are not unhinged ramblings or something. I forgot. That dude said in a comment one time, put down the drugs. No, you pick up a fucking book. You know what I'm saying? These are the things that are said when either someone wants you to not pay attention and allow something to keep going, or they're just not intelligent enough to catch something before it reaches a certain point. And I care about not only myself, but I care about y'all. I care about my family. And so both of those things make me inclined to not give a fuck if I look crazy or look like a fool or look like whatever. I don't give a fuck. Also, I've come out and started, being more bold in that I am affected by this, and not many are. And that adds a metaphysical look or aesthetic to it, but it's not that. I experimented with the specimens that you see pictures of in those thumbnails. It responds to frequency. It is controlled by frequency. You can play specific frequencies and it will do things. It will respond. If you look at the patents that I've also put pictures up of on my Instagram, and I think even it's in some of the shorts on my YouTube, some of those patents disclose that this is self-replicating technology, meaning that it can replicate, reproduce, it can make structures, much like the ones that you see in those thumbnails, and it can do things that many, I think, have started telling like there are many influencers and beings out there that are telling people that are suffering. They're suffering now. Well, you have a demonic attachment, and I can get rid of that for you with an energy healing. Oh, that first one didn't work. Well, we gotta run it back. Sometimes this shit takes months, maybe even years. There's shit that can be explained right now with science, and I have my thoughts on science and math and all that bullshit too, but much of it is applicable. It doesn't mean just because mathematics is flawed doesn't mean that it can't have benefits. Just because science is flawed and very censored doesn't mean it can't have its benefits. I could have listened to, the couple of doctors I went to trying to figure out what the fuck was going on, because at the beginning it makes you feel crazy. What the fuck is happening? I got these bites, I can't see anything. And when you go to those outlets to try to get answers, they are very much influenced to either offer you medication without any kind of verification of what you're dealing with, or to make you feel crazy and put you on some kind of psychological medication or something like that, or just to brush you off. Like, I don't know, I don't give a fuck. I took it upon myself, and I got my own corroboration. I got my own proof, my own evidence. And so, the themes within that movie are fucking crazy. Like, even that AI shit, like, that could either be taken as a threat or it can be taken as a warning, because even that had a level of not mysticism to it, but there were kind of philosophical pretexts to it. Like, should we be messing around with AI and robotics in that sense? Because the character of David, dude just murking. He's murking everybody. Everybody is dying if David is in the movie. He killed, and I'm, like I said, these are spoilers, but it's an old movie. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what to tell you. It's worth watching either way. But the end of the movie is David tricking everybody and killing everyone. And saving 2 specimen to take to a new colony, create more of these things, and to kill more. So, would you take that as a warning, or would you take it as a threat? You see what I'm saying? Do we have the capability, unless we all get together and make some sort of stand, to even affect change when it comes to artificial intelligence or robotics or anthrobotics? All of these themes. It's very thought-provoking, to say the least. Philosophically, scientifically, and it's got a personal bite to it, because this is why I'm researching these things. It's not just because I got interested in it. Honestly, who the fuck would want to pay attention to this shit? But I have a sense of obligation and a sense of duty, because I have a child. You know what I mean? If I don't give a fuck about nothing else, I care about my child. And if this is something that exists within the world that my child exists in, I don't like that, And I kind of view beings that can ignore things such as this, once, being provided the evidence and the redundant experimentation. If you could ignore shit like this, like, I'm not really interested in talking to you, because, that's pushed out, in my opinion. Either it's a cognitive dissonance where you just can't, you can't have that be a reality, or an intelligence buffer, which that's not necessarily those beings' faults. But if you can see that in a tangible sense, and then be like, well, I just can't worry about that. Well, that's an impasse, That's an impasse. Even if you were to ignore the kind of metaphysical explanation I'm giving for the creation of said thing, doesn't matter how it was created necessarily. That's just something that I do. Philosophy and religious backing and all that stuff, Gnosticism and all that shit, it just corroborates other things that I've studied heavily. But if you can't connect to that, fuck all that. I can show you these things, and that should bring about a level of concern at the very least. And then when you go and look at pop culture and you see these things perpetuated over and over and over and over again, that should tell you something, because it's not an unpopular theme that narratives are passed along first in books or written form, and then in movies and TV, music, other types of mediums. You know, very, very disturbing shit. Very disturbing shit. If you haven't seen that movie, and you know, if you can handle horror movies, watch it. If it's gonna just fuck your day or life up or whatever, you know, you've heard me kind of go over a Cliff's Notes. Didn't go over any plot necessarily, just you know, the kind of specifics. And I think that some are gonna look at it and say, "Oh, so you think these things are gonna make aliens?" That's why I didn't say that. No, I don't think that. I think that with these stories, you have to mix in some real with the fake. You have to mix in some fiction with your fiction. You know what I mean? Because I don't really believe in fiction. Those that create, especially if they are not able of actually creating, they've got to have a muse. They've got to have inspiration from something else. And I kind of think that's the case for most of us. I don't think anyone's really creating something from scratch. But you can compile things, absolutely, to sound like something new, and that can be very beautiful. But it can also be horrible or horrifying, you know? You know, not trying to bum anybody out, but this is the research that I'm doing, and it is important, and it could affect you. You know what I mean? Like these, as I keep saying, and I don't want it to seem like a preaching or a desperate call to you know, action or something like that, but we're past the point of them just talking about making these things. It's done. It's done, and you know, there have been towers put up everywhere very quickly, starting in 2019, maybe late 2019, but definitely 2020, and there are thousands of them, I think, at least, if not more. Those can broadcast what? Frequency, as well as the HARP project, which uses very, very specific technology to be able to, again, broadcast microwaves and extra low frequency waves anywhere they want. These things are how this technology is remote controlled. So, if nothing else, if you don't think that I have done enough research, prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. I would love that. Please prove me wrong. Don't just say bullshit in comments that is not based in any kind of like thought. Prove me wrong. I need that, because not great findings. You know what I mean? I'm doing this instead of hands-on research with samples, because the shit that I saw once I started frequency experimentation, I don't want to see that. I don't want to be around that or see that. It's not cool. You know? Not cool shit. Anyway, this is starting to feel like I'm giving loosh up or something, so I'm gonna go. I am gonna, you know, round this out with another video, I think, unless it seems like this is enough in the feedback. But we'll see. I don't know. But I love y'all, and you know, heartfelt stuff. If you shameless plug-in shit. If you find value in the things that I offer, or if you feel like helping out with, you know, supporting the research, there's a PayPal link in the channel description, not the video description, the channel description. You know, there's an email there, gammaauobsidian@gmail.com, if you have any thoughts or any, you know, direction or any, you know, ideas. There's an Instagram, gammaauobsidian. And, you know, yeah, I guess I'll see you later, dog. I love you. Bye.